This is Gary Holt from Exodus, and you are listening to Metal Express Radio.
This edition of Metal Express Radio's Rockumentary series will be dedicated to Exodus. We're happy to be joined by Gary Holt. Let's start with the beginning. I mean, you were one of the trendsetters of the Bay Area thrash movement back in the early 80s, and I know you recorded some demos before your first album. They were kind of more melodic or less aggressive, and then this style, thrash metal, came about. Where did you pick up the influences, and how did that evolve?
You know, well, the early stuff, like, we only ever did one official demo. You know, that was the old Whipping Queen demo. But those are Kirk songs, you know, and back then, you know, the band was, you know, especially Kirk's writing was far more Iron Maiden influenced, you know, but, like, you know, that was before we started delving into, like, the stuff I started writing, which was, you know, much more violent and stuff, which, you know, a big influence for me was, like, Merciful Fate and Venom, you know. Those are like two of my heroes, so that was really cool.
There were, you know, a lot of thrash bands around. Did you pick up influences from each other, or, I mean, this was a complete movement?
No, we tried not to, you know. You know, none of us. I mean, obviously there were bands that came later that, you know, you could just hear Metallica all over them, but you know, us and Metallica were like going at it side by side. So, you know, I think what it came down to was, we all loved the same bands, but we loved certain ones more. Like Metallica, it was obviously all about Diamond Head. You know, they. Sure. Lars even says they should like have to pay royalties for their sound. You know, some of it, And ours was all about Merciful Fate and Venom and Discharge. You know, a little hardcore punk thrown in there, you know. And of course, you know, Maiden and Priest and Sabbath and stuff like that too.
Was it like you knew all the other bands? I mean, of course, Kirk Hammett was in Exodus before the first album. Did you know all the bands playing your kind of music in the Bay Area?
Well, yeah, we all, like, you know, like us and Metallica, you know, we started out, you know, the first time we met, we were like, wow, there's another band playing the same kind of, like, you know, metal that we play, and vice versa. And so we hit it off right away. And then the other bands, you know, most of them got their start opening for either of us, you know. It's like, you know, whether it's Forbidden or Legacy, you know, now Testament, or Death Angel, you know, or Violence, you know, they were opening Exodus gigs everywhere, you know. And so we were all friends, you know. I was out to blow every last one of them off the stage, you know, to show them who Daddy was, you know.
Your debut, Bounded by Blood, was actually recorded before Metallica released their debut album, but it was released after. Was that an issue for you, that it was kind of delayed?
It was disappointing. I mean, you know, I would have liked it. Things, you know, would have went a lot more smoothly had it come out, you know, earlier. But, you know, we were on a new startup record label that had some serious growing pains, you know, of like actually figuring out how to do this, you know. And so it took a little while. But, you know, the album's a classic, you know. I don't think anybody's ever going to touch it, myself included, you know.
Were you aware of that album would be such a milestone in thrash metal when you released it? Did you have the feeling that this would be a big and important
I had no idea, you know. I just thought it was killer. I thought the songs are all killer, and you know, did I think anybody'd be, you know, talking about it all these years later? You know, I can't say that I did, you know. It was just we were a bunch of kids, like, drinking way too much and playing this fast metal, you know. It's like we didn't know what we were doing. Maybe that's part of the secret, is that we didn't technically know what we were doing, and, you know, because some people would have probably told us, you're not supposed to do that. Not supposed to play that fast. Guitars aren't supposed to sound like that, you know. What's wrong with you? But we don't listen. We're hard-headed, so.
Well, the label was based in New York. How did they find you?
Through underground tape trading and shit, you know, the same way people in Europe knew who we were long before we ever recorded an album, you know, just bootlegs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you get out to play much after the first album? I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, we did the 2 tours with Venom, which was like a highlight of my life, you know, and the one, you know, in the U.S. with Venom, Slayer, and Exodus, and that was so much fun, you know, and a couple of headlining tours and shit like that, you know.
Actually, one of our reporters in Germany saw you with Venom, and he said you blew them off stage. Did you have that feeling as well?
They're my heroes, and so I just can't say that. But we were hitting on all cylinders then, though, so, you know.
Paul Baloff left the band. What happened?
Well, at the time, Paul was like, having a lot of problems with his life and just his living situation, things like that. And it's one of those things where, it's a double-edged sword because, I've regretted it ever since, but I don't regret the albums I did with Zetro, if that makes any sense. And I also know that if we hadn't done it, we'd probably still be recording vocals for Pleasures of the Flesh, because Paul was having a really hard time, in the studio, and a hard time with the songs, But, I got to rectify that by playing with him again all those years later, so, that was cool.
Was it hard to come up with your next album? I mean, it took, 2 years. Pleasures of the Flesh was released in 1987.
No, it wasn't hard to come up with at all. It's just, once again, we had problems this time in the studio with our former manager and producer, Mark Whitaker. He wanted everything done this certain way, and none of us liked it. And then he was basically experimenting with some technology he hadn't mastered, and it really almost butchered the album drum-wise. Tom had to redo the drums digitally, one drum at a time, because he depended on drum samples that didn't trigger right, and so we had these drums that sounded like shit. We had to go in and fix them one by one, and it took forever, and it was a nightmare. It wasn't a fun album to make.
Well, if you compare it to Bounded by Blood, what is it like?
I think there's more going on musically. I think if the album had a better production, it'd been fantastic. The songs are great. The playing's great. It's just we were trying to basically rescue the album rather than make the best album we could. We were trying to fix it. And it's never good to go in and spend all your time repairing it.
Sure.
Get it right the first time.
The album was released on a small label. Did that mean you had less support to go touring?
No. We did quite a few tours, really successful ones. So everything was really going well. The album did really well.
Your next album, Fabulous Disaster, is 2 years after, in '89. Another great album. What's your review upon that album?
Oh yeah, that one we like managed to like get everything right, you know. Went in and the production was like exactly what we wanted, and the songs are killer, and it's furious, you know. It's super heavy, you know. I mean, there's that one song on it everybody wants to hear, you know.
I mean,
dance
MTV
number, you know. You know, we're playing it again now. I needed a few-year break from that song, you know. But you know, I came to the realization you can't hide from songs, you know, just because maybe you're a little tired of them. The fans like it, you know. So.
I mean, MTV must have been quite important for you at that time.
Oh yeah, they played the hell out of that song, you know. Then we did the big Headbangers Ball tour in the States with the Anthrax and Halloween, and that was huge, you know. That was the closest we ever came to feeling like we were in like Motley Crue or something, you know. Because you know, it was pretty wild. The debauchery was pretty insane on that tour, you know. Because you know, it all of a sudden did go mainstream, you know. You know, on this big MTV tour, so you know, there's like, you know, morally bankrupt women everywhere, you know, and a lot of drugs and alcohol. So we went crazy, you know. It's fucking, we were young, you know. It's like had a good time. I won't deny it.
Who came up with the idea covering AC/DC on this album?
I did. I also, you know, we've like, let's do a bonus track, and me and Zet wanted to do Overdose. We love AC/DC anyway, so.
With the last act of Defiance, Exodus for the first time moved to a serious, more political topics. Rather.
Well, it's not the first time. I mean, you had stuff like Chemical on, you know, Places of the Flesh, and you know, Seeds of Hate. You know, dealing with like, you know, toxic polluters and terrorism and shit like that. So there was, you know, some of that. We're already kind of heading in that way, you know, yeah, a little bit. But yeah, that's one of my favorite songs on that album, if not my favorite.
Tom Hunting left after this album for the first time. What happened?
Well, he was, suffering, a series of anxiety attacks, and panic attacks, and anybody knows anything about it, knows it can like be crippling, like just take you out of everything that you're doing, and it just got to the point where he just, couldn't do it at that time, he just, he was suffering, and so we had to move on, it was unfortunate.
And then you moved on to a big label. Capitol Records for Impact is Imminent. What was that like?
Well, it was great leading up to it, the whole wine and dine you and like throw a lot of money at you, and they courted us since they tried buying the rights to Pleasures of the Flesh, and they tried buying the rights to Fabulous, but the price was too high, and with Fabulous, that was our last album. We owed Combat Records anyway, and so they finally signed us. But by the time we had signed and then recorded the album, everybody was gone. They had a huge upheaval in the record label, and so new president, new A&R, new head of A&R, new everybody, and so no one involved with signing us was there anymore. So no one gave a shit,
And well, the album was kind of maybe a step down. It's not as strong as the first album.
At the time I didn't think that, but now I think. If that album never existed and I could put that same album out with some improvements on the vocals, I think people think it's the best thing ever.
Really?
The album's crushing, the riffs, I think it was too brutal for the time. People wanted more Toxic Waltz and shit like that, and the album was just so in your face and just so heavy. And like, until they just re-released it, it's the album out of all of our catalog that sells for, in the United States was selling for like $60, $75 on eBay, people are like paying money to get it, it's like, all of a sudden people like that album again,
And then your next album, Force of Habit, from '92, was kind of a different album.
Yeah, you know, and here once again, it's the funny thing is, Force of Habit got way better reviews than Impact did, but now people don't look back as favorably on it. I mean, I think it's an album that has its moments. As a guitar player, the guitar playing's great on it. You know, there's some shredding shit, you know, and the guitar sound is huge. But, you know, it's definitely a departure, you know. There's some stuff on it I like. There's some stuff I don't, you know. I don't play any of it live, you know. But not everybody in the band knows all of it. I'm the only guy who knows any of it now, you know. It's like the rest of them don't know how to play any of them.
Why did you move that direction, move away from
Well, it wasn't
thrash?
even intentional. We were just, you know, I don't know, we tuned the guitars down a little bit and just started going for that like deeper groove, more groovy sound, you know. There's a lot of fast stuff on it, but I think the big mistake was, you know, like trying to make Zetro sing a little too much, you know, a little too melodic, you know, vocally, I don't know. I mean, there's some good stuff on it, you know. People either love it or hate it, you know. At the time, people loved it, and now people don't like it very much, and at the time, people didn't like Impact as imminent, but people seem to like it a lot more now, you know.
Sure. What's the story behind the album sleeve?
Oh, the cover?
Yeah.
We asked Ralph Steadman to do it, you know, who's the artist who does all the Hunter S. Thompson illustrations for his books, and I didn't know what to expect, and he sent that back. It wasn't quite what I expected, but, you know, it was a rare coup getting him to even do it in the first place, so I wasn't going to tell him I didn't like it. I don't know. It's one of those things.
I mean, even your logo is different on that album.
He painted the logo on there, you know, so we couldn't really remove it, you know.
Really?
What do, you know? Fucking, you know, this legendary artist who did your shit and tell him to fix it, you know, you might piss him off, I don't know. I probably should have, you know.
What happened after that album? Did you break up, or did you
Yeah,
just
I got
take
pretty
a break?
sick of the whole thing. You know,
Yeah.
my first daughter was born, and I was out doing a job that I always said I didn't want to do if it wasn't fun, and it wasn't fun. I wasn't having fun being in a band with Zetro. He'd become really difficult, and I just wanted out for a while, you know. So I said, "Fuck it." I'm taking a prolonged vacation.
So what did you do all those years?
I was a stay-home dad. I took my daughter to Girl Scouts, and I was a kindergarten dad, you know. Took them bowling and shit like that. Worked for a little while, but I never worked much in my life. I'm not good at it.
Nope.
I was a house dad, you know. The ex-wife worked, and I took care of the kids. So.
You weren't actually playing at all? At least
Yeah,
not
yeah,
in
I
band.
did. You know, I played and continued working on stuff, but nothing seriously, you know.
So when did you find out the time was right to start the band again, and who did you call first?
Well, you know, I went and visited Rick, and and he was shocked. And when I told him I wanted to, he said, "Let's go get some coffee somewhere and talk about this, because I don't even know if you're serious, you know." And the hard part was getting hold of Paul, who was living somewhere else, and nobody had a phone number for him. And then he called me out of the blue, and I thought he was calling in reference to like hearing about these plans, but it was just out of the blue. And then I told him, and he goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." And he hangs up, and he calls me back 5 minutes later and goes, "You're not kidding, right?" And I said, "No, I'm not kidding. Let's do it." And it started with just a bunch of friends, saying, "You should like get Paul, get the band back together." So I said, "Fuck it, why not? Let's do it."
So he was actually in the band when he died? Paul?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, we were all fucking addicted to methamphetamine. We weren't really doing anything, but yeah, he was still in the band, yeah.
So then you had to go hunting for another vocalist. Did you call Sosa right away, or?
Well, what happened was we had 2 shows booked in Anaheim before Paul died, and as it turns out, Zetro had a family vacation planned for Disneyland that same weekend, and he called me up and goes, "Dude, I'm going to be in Anaheim, why don't we do the shows?" And I said, "Sure." And it was really fun because we were able to play a lot of the other material, because with Paul we pretty much only played, the bonded stuff, and even that gets boring when you can't play any of the other songs. And so we did the shows, and it was cool, and I thought it was going to be fun, and it was for a little while, but Zetro just really didn't want to be there, and made life difficult again.
Tempo of the Damned was released in 2004. What was it like writing another Exodus album after all those years?
It was easy because I quit doing dope, and so all of a sudden, the creativity came back, and and it just kind of flowed, and it always has ever since then. It's like, I don't have a problem writing albums. It's become really easier than it's ever been. And we were real happy and real excited. The album came out killer, So it was more of a comeback record than most people ever expected,
Absolutely.
I came back with a swift kick in the balls, and those kicks have only gotten harder with each album. Next album's gonna be a fucking nuclear kick.
That must have been rather important for you. A lot of your fans regard that album as a masterpiece.
Yeah, it's a
was
fucking killer record, yeah.
So, if your fans didn't like it, do you think you will still be around now?
It's hard to say because, without making it sound harsh and mean, I don't ever care what the fans think. I care about my fans, but I write for myself. And what happens is, in the end, we usually want the same thing. What I want and what the fans want. But once you start actually writing based on what you think someone else likes, you're no different than Madonna or Britney Spears, who are writing songs based on what the audience dictates, Whether it's thrash, if I'm like, well, the people thought the last album, the songs are too long, so I'm going to go and write like a whole album of just nothing but short thrash songs, then I'm doing what someone else thinks I should and not what I did. And that's what happened with Force of Habit. I was doing what other people thought I should do. I was listening to those little voices chirping away in my ears, but now I just try to please myself and hope that people like it. And it seems like it works out well, They seem to like dig what I like, we like the same thing. Want the shit in your face and brutal,
What about a track like Star Spangled Banner? Are you still pissed at the government, like you heard then?
Yeah, but see, I'm a complex person. You know, I'm pissed at the government, but I'm pissed at everybody. You know, so there's just one person. You know, it's like I'm pissed at the government. And I'm pissed at anti-war protesters because I hate hippies. You know.
Right. Then you have something to write about. So
yeah, for sure.
And then there were some more lineup changes. I mean, Steve Sosa left the band again. Tom left the band again.
Yeah.
Were there disagreements or?
No. Tom
help?
was starting to suffer his anxiety issues again, and so he needed some time away, you know. But we went into this one knowing all along that, look, just take a break, you know, see how it feels, you know. And you know, finally, you know, I mean, because in my opinion, he'd never fully recovered from the first one, you know, and he hadn't really gotten to the bottom of the issue so that you can actually get better. And now he has, you know, he actually understands that, you know, take a deep breath. It's just you know, you're not having a heart attack, you know, you're just, you know, having a panic attack, you know. And Rick, you know, he's got his 2 kids, and they needed him at home, and he couldn't give 100%, and he knew it. I mean, he rarely ever showed up for rehearsals for Shovelheaded Kill Machine. You know, it's just me, Paul, and Jack, and Rob when he joined.
All right. Well, then for the next album, Shovelheaded Kill Machine, in 2005, you had a new drummer, guitarist, and a new vocalist.
Yeah.
How much effect did that have on the album? Did it take a completely different direction than you had in your mind?
No, not at all. I was working on these songs before anything happened, and these are the songs that I got. You know, it's a fucking killer record. I mean, if there's one difference, it'd be more in style points, you know, because Paul's a different drummer than Tom, and you know, Tom's drumming is so much the heart and soul of Exodus, you know, of our sound, you know, and so it sounded different, you know, and Paul just kills it on the record. But, you know, Tom's drumming just sounds like Exodus drumming, you know. So, I mean, stylistically, there might be some differences. And but other than that, you know, it's the album we set out to make. You know, it's like I didn't let anything stress me out. You know, I called Lee up immediately and said, you know, you waited 20 years, here's a chance. Well, I'm joining the band. Yeah.
And then...
And that lug that just walked upstairs, you know, he came in, was the vocalist I'd been looking for all these years since Paul, you know, so...
And this was your second album on Nuclear Blast.
Yeah.
Did that work well for you?
Yeah. We re-signed. We're there for the duration now, you know. You know, I don't know how many more albums I got in me, you know, but I'll keep going as long as I can do it well, you know.
Now your songs are getting longer and longer. I mean, Death Amphetamine is a 8.5 minutes long track.
Something like that.
Yeah. Is that intentional or does it just happen?
You know, it's just kind of a natural progression of the song. You know, it's like, well, I'm not gonna tell a song it's finished when it hasn't told me it's finished. You know, and it just, you know, all these parts kept coming together, and just boom, this big epic. You know, and at the same time, you know, we're not really, you know, writing songs for radio anymore, hell, or MTV. MTV doesn't show music videos. You know, at least not in America. You know, it's all shows. You know, stupid reality shows and crap like that. So you know, you don't have to take that into consideration anymore. You know, just do what you want.
What you see, I know to be is
Well, your last album was released last year, Atrocity Exhibit A. You have written all the music and most of the lyrics as well.
Well, Lee wrote most of Children of Worthless God, and he's written some stuff that's already finished and recorded for the next album. But like Lee always, because the Heathen record, I call it the thrash metal Chinese democracy. It'll be done in like 10 years, but he's actually in the studio. They've finished drums, so there is a new Heathen album on the horizon.
Good.
But he says, his riffs are like fine wine. They take time to nurture. Mine are like moonshine. They're done overnight. So they would show up for rehearsal, and I'd finish like Iconoclasm, which is 7.5 minutes long, and I'd finish it from the time they left practice the day before to the next day, and it didn't exist before then. Just it just comes to me. So, I write riffs without a guitar around. It's like I can like visualize the fretboard in my head and just kind of like, and I get this far out look, and I look like I've lost my mind because I'm sitting there going like this, and I'm playing guitar without a guitar, because I know the fretboard well enough to like create without the instrument around, So I write some of my best shit that way.
Yeah. So that's the way it has to be done, or do you kind of?
No, I hope there's more contribution on the next, but his fine wine takes time. My moonshine is 180 proof overnight, so. I've got we've got 4 finished and recorded, and I've got 6 right now I'm working on, and I know Lee has some other stuff too, so.
So compared to Exhibit A, what will Exhibit B be like, do you
The
think?
stuff I'm writing right now is really, really fast.
Oh.
Some of it's long, some of it's epic, some of it's fucking bizarre. It's all really dark, but I've got one right now I'm working on. It's easily the fastest Exodus song of all time. It's ridiculously fast. It's pretty fucking silly fast, really.
And
crazy.
long, or?
No, probably hit about 6 minute mark. I don't know.
Have you got any idea when the album will be released?
It all depends on when we can get in the studio. Hoping to maybe be in the studio by next spring. So we'll see what happens.
Do you write while you're on the road, like now?
In the head.
In the head.
Yeah. Too crowded to leave guitars around on the bus. And, when I get the sound check, I'll start playing what I'm working on in my head. But mostly I just hum shit out and lay in my bunk, and I hope I remember it later.
All right. Okay, let's close the show with an Exodus track of your choice. What would that be?
That's always so hard. I could throw a real loop out there and pick something really bizarre. And let me see. A funeral hymn. I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.